Hello everyone, Dr. Christine Smith here, back for another Instagram Live with Skye Swift, who is one of my favorite people and just an amazing practitioner. And I can't wait to teach you about her because she is not only having a background in pharmacy, but she is also a practitioner of something called Psych-K, which is a way to reprogram the subconscious mind in a way that can help your health. And I have started using this a ton in my practice because emotions are a form of injury. They are a form of stress on the body. So I can't wait to talk about this with her. Hi, Skye. How are you?
Hey, Christine. So good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here, that we finally get to do this. I know we've been talking about doing this for a long time. And I think this is just such an important thing for people to know exists. And it has such an important role in your life in a variety of different ways. So why don't we just dive in and you can tell people a little bit about yourself and how you got into this, even with a history of being a pharmacist. For how many years have you been in pharmacy?
20 years I've been a pharmacist. So my whole family are pharmacists. I'm actually visiting my family in Newcastle at the moment to help out in the family pharmacies. We are all pharmacists, and I was in there dispensing, so my subconscious programs are for healing, doctor, pharmacy, pill, and 17 years in the pharmacy. And I remember the exact time, and I was looking and I was like, there's not an awareness of what else they can do for their health. Like, there's such a reliance on doctors' diagnoses and on the medications, and I just thought there's got to be more. And within days, quantum science, neuroscience came across my Facebook feed, and I'm like, what is this? And I just delved straight in. So I guess it started with Dr. Joe Dispenza. He really opened my eyes to incredible things. And Bruce Lipton. And yeah, so I did a few of Dr. Joe's advanced week-long retreats, which were really mind-opening. So yeah, just such an incredible journey to know that there is more that we can do. I believe there's a role for everything, but there is more that we can do. So if we can help to share that, because I didn't know until I knew, I didn't know. So yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
Absolutely. And, there's so many good teachers out there, but Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is actually how she and I met. I had put up a post on social media about some of Dr. Joe's results and just got some interesting comments on it. And Skye was one of the people who was contributing with the knowledge that she's gained from that. And then we connected. And then I ended up flying to Australia to go visit her, to do a Psych-K course with her, because I believe in working with people who you resonate with. And I think it makes a really big difference. And I have zero regrets about flying 26 hours to go do that. And it was such a great time. And, it was great because it also broke my neurological patterning from the environment that I'm usually in, which is something that I also encourage people to do. And that's a huge part of what Psych-K does. So I think in a video you had said that you had thought working in pharmacy was actually one of the greatest places and opportunities to create awareness about brain and stress-based ailments and preventing disease. So let's kind of just start there. Like, what are some of the conversations that you have with people about why working with your own mind and mitigating stress, which is your perception of your environment, and how that has to do with some of the conditions that you end up seeing people come in for?
Yeah. So it's fascinating because back in the day, if someone mentioned that they had a rash, we would just find a cream for that rash. And now it doesn't matter what ailment it is. I ask them, what else is going on for you? Has anything else happened lately? Have you got extra stress, or especially if a condition started years ago, what was happening around that time? And yesterday alone, I had the most engaging heartfelt conversations with people, and they all just opened up, and all of a sudden it just brings so much rapport on so many levels. A, they feel heard. B, they're made aware that maybe the stress is influencing their health. But yeah, time and time again, I'm 4 years into Psych-K now, and I use it every day, either with myself or with clients, and it's just, I can now see that every element has an energetic and an emotional component to it. So the fact that the subconscious mind is 95% of our day in our programs, when I heard that, I was like, this is pivotal. This is a pivotal place to make a change. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And and Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about the intelligence of the body lays in the membrane of the cell. And that has to do with pretty much all of our diseases, right? It all starts with cellular health cascading down a certain biochemical pathway that ends up being dysfunctional. And if we can change that utilizing our brain, which is the strongest drug you'll ever have, it's the biggest pharmacy you will ever have, then it is amazing what you can do using a restructuring of your way of thinking and of the mind to help to reprogram your cells and therefore your health. And then you can also apply this in professional settings and personal settings and a bunch of other ways. So yeah, why don't you maybe tell us a little bit about what you have discovered through your experience of going through the Psych-K trainings, which also I now use in my practice like mostly every day. Thank you. Like it's just a piece of what I do now and I love it. It makes everything incredibly holistic because, in my realm, thoughts, traumas, toxins, these are the things that stress out your body. I can address the toxins and I can address the nutrition and I can address the physical. But if I don't address the thoughts, we're missing a huge chunk. But yeah, just what's your experience been going through the process and maybe telling us a little bit about how it works and what you've seen change for people?
So Psych-K basically helps to reprogram the subconscious. And like I mentioned earlier, it is 95% of our mind works at the subconscious level. So 95% of our day, we are working from programs that were instilled in our early childhood. And since then, we just keep building on those programs. Now, I didn't used to, when I first heard that, it surprised me because I was like, that's not a belief. Like, this is not a belief. That's how life is. And then I noticed people reacting to the same situation, but me and my friends reacted different. And I was like, same thing, different reactions. It's all based on our beliefs and perceptions and experiences from earlier life. So when I heard that, and then it's 95%, I'm like, this is a pivotal place to make the change. And then I heard from Bruce Lipton, who said, if you want to make a change at the subconscious, you either need hypnotherapy or to create a new habit, which requires time and willpower, or energy psychology like Psych-K. Now, I'm an efficient kind of girl, so I was like, all right, what is this Psych-K? Because if we can do this quickly and easily and efficiently, I'm in. So I looked up what Psych-K was. There's an international website, Psych-K. It's around the world. And I found a workshop in Australia and I attended that. And even at the workshop, we learned the muscle testing because that's how we get in contact with, to see what the subconscious actually believes. Because I can tell you that I love myself, but when I did the muscle testing, it was like weak. And so we learn the muscle testing, and then we have processes. The processes are whole brain. They allow the left and right hemispheres to align and, work in synergy for the best optimal result. And it also gets you into the brain state, which allows for subconscious change. So not only it's not positive thinking. It's not like that. We actually just get clear on how we would like it to be, how we would like our scenario to be, how we would like to feel about ourselves or a scenario, and then we put that into our subconscious mind. So it's like imprinting an affirmation, but in your body for good, we don't fake it till we make it. We actually just go, that's how it is. So when you change your beliefs, your mind and your energy changes. So when you change your beliefs, your brain chemistry is now sending different signals to the body. And we know that this works. We know that placebos work. The results for placebo medicines are amazing. So if you can get such good results by taking a sugar pill because you believe you're taking the thing, your brain can create anything. And so when your brain changes, your chemistry changes, and then your body and your health changes. And when you have a new empowering belief, you see it in people. They've either got a great vibe or they've got, a bit of a toxic low vibe, or anywhere in between. So when you have a great vibe, then you actually attract a lot more good things. And 5 years ago, I would never have had this conversation because I didn't believe in energy. I just thought it was woo-woo and I was not into it. But now that I understand all the science and the quantum science behind it, not to mention I have experienced miracles, like magic in my life every day since. So yeah,
I love
it's
that.
everything.
And, you know, I used to kind of be the same way, right? Like I worked in research labs and was exceptionally left-brained and was always wanting the data behind everything. And there's a couple interesting pieces, and it's like one of them is, you know, when you're studying biology, in order to understand biology correctly, you have to study chemistry. In order to study chemistry correctly, you have to understand physics. In order to understand physics correctly, you have to understand quantum physics. And as soon as you do quantum physics, it shoots you right back around to energy. And
Yeah.
that is why, yeah, I mean, and that is like the foundational component of physics. All of us are made of energy. It's what holds our atoms together. It's what allows them to be material in the way that they are, is about like how that energy is exchanged. So that's all of that. And then I also, in the realm of having open-mindedness to look into things that are not peer-reviewed yet, which, let's just be honest, all of our peer-reviewed research is about 50 years behind what's actually current because it takes so long to get anything published. Like I worked on an article in 2012 and it just got published last year. So like just understanding what actually happens behind the research game, it's quite a lot of politics. Is that I had someone say to me, you know, I was like, you know, I don't feel comfortable using something that I can't 100% fully explain with peer-reviewed research to the person I'm working with. And they said to me, well, you know, I think if you know something that works and you're not using it because you don't know how to explain it, that's unethical. It's like, ooh, all right. That is a
Yeah.
really good point. And so now I use things that are being researched because there's research going on in them because they're interesting and intriguing and coming forth. And that's what people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton are doing, is they are bringing forth the research that supports this stuff. And then additionally, there's all the clinical outcomes. And so if something is working, why not use it? So let's talk
Yeah.
a little bit about some of the outcomes that you've had, maybe just like a couple of your favorite things that come to mind.
Okay, so my number one favorite one is self-love, actually self-love. So that is one thing that my greatest gain from Psych-K. Now, I've always been happy and confident, but a kinesiologist told me a few years ago, she's like, you don't love yourself. And I'm like, I love my life. And she's like, not your life, yourself. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know, and so she asked me what I love. And I said, all the things I know now. And she's like, what don't you love? And I said, religious conversations with my dad. And because of the incongruence between those two, I couldn't love myself, because if I just follow my heart and what resonates, then I might go to hell or disappoint my dad. Or if I follow that way, then I might lose the fire in my heart. So by using Psych-K to get clear then on how I'd like to feel, and I just dissolved and transformed a lot of limiting beliefs, and then I just found self-love, which is, I feel like it's the most powerful, loving and fulfilling thing in the world. And it's not a selfish thing, it's a loving thing, so that I can now be loving to others. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not self-absorbed, it's just self-empowering, so that I can then contribute more and serve others in a beautiful, loving way. And that's what I want to do now. I just want everyone to feel like this internal peace. Yeah, because there's so much stress and worry and rushing in the world. And yeah, if we can find peace and love in the small moments, I mean, that's what kids have, and we pull them out of it because we rush them around. And then as adults, we try to find it again. So Psych-K for me helped me find self-love. But in other ways, physical healing. So I kept hearing emotions get stored in the body, and I didn't used to believe it until ailments of mine healed, but then clients as well. So one of my a client had an arm in a sling for 2 weeks, had tendonitis, could barely move it. And she said, Skye, I heard emotions get stored in the body. I said, yeah. She said, can we do a session? The session had nothing to do with her arm, nothing to do with her arm at all. Just family stuff, whatever. Just lifestyle stress, whatever's on her mind. And then the next day she paddled over to me in the ocean. She was surfing, And she's like, Skye, it is 90% better. And I have example after example after example of that. So with Psych-K, we do not diagnose or we don't claim to treat anything, but I just keep seeing healing, you know, so I can't deny that.
Well, and the way that I think about that is it has to do with allostatic load and your body's capacity for what's going on, right? We have capacity for the physical, we have capacity for the mental, we have capacity for the chemical. And if you are filling your capacity bucket with a bunch of mental stress, you're going to have a lot less tolerance for physical and chemical stress. So if we can relieve the mental stress, then all of a sudden your body has all these other resources and that much more capacity to address the other things going on. And, you know, I had a similar experience with a patient who had come in and she'd been struggling with like a rib pain and put the rib back in, did that at least twice. And then she's like, you know, it's still there. I did all the soft tissue work. And then I was like, okay, well, let's check for emotional. And it came up as emotional. And we cleared out some stuff about some stress that was going on at work. And the next day she's like, okay, it's gone. That was weird. And we used Psych-K for it. So it's so interesting. And the Psych-K that we were using for it, it came up that it was like some stuff at work that she wasn't even really totally aware was bothering her. So it's an interesting thing because there's also layers to it. So every once in a while I'll do it, you know, a little bit quickly if we're just addressing one thing, but it's best done in like a longer, like hour-long session because you can go through the layers of it. And sometimes the layers that come up are not stuff that you're expecting and stuff where you're like, I didn't even think that was bothering me, but it's just emotions that are being stored in your tissues to clear out because we're all, you know, pretty good at maintaining ourselves and we can push our stuff down or push it back and out of the way. Just gets stored in your tissues. There's a whole book about it called The Molecules of Emotion, where it's like if you don't feel your emotions, they basically gunk up your cells and prevent them from doing their cellular processes correctly. And it's just an interesting thing when you see these things clearing that you've been working on otherwise in all these other ways. And I even used it for, let's see, how he was 8 years old and he was scared to go travel for his soccer game because he's in like an elite soccer league. And so we did going through a couple of the layers of just like, well, you know, where's the fear coming from? Like, what's going on? And then every single thing that he brought up, we just cleared it. And then by the end, he's like, I'm excited to go now. And
Yes.
he did great and he had a great time and he wasn't homesick this time. So it's so simple that you can use it with a young kid, which I love because I have other modalities that I use that I really like neuro-emotional technique, and they all have their own place. But that one's more complicated to use with a kid. So Psych-K is like much more attainable in that way.
Yeah, I find and also for your Dr. Joe Dispenza fans, like I find Psych-K to be such a great catalyst and a complement to his work because meditation's fantastic as well. But Psych-K is just so quick, you know, it's so quick to address the layers. So that's what I appreciate about it. It's not the only thing. There are other modalities. I'm not against any of them. I'm for all of them. You know, try them all. I've just found this to be so quick, and you know, people can do one-on-one sessions, but they can also learn it for themselves. And you and I are both facilitators, but we're not even upset like or in competition if people go and do the course themselves. You know, because there is enough for everyone and everyone's ready for different things at different times. So yeah, it's just, we just want it to be accessible to everyone and available in whatever capacity people are ready for. So yeah, I like that.
And that's what we were talking about. Like, that's why we wanted to do this is we just want people to know about it and that it's out there and that it exists. And there's a whole book on it. I think it's Psych-K, The Missing Piece, but P-E-A-C-E, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, so that's a good book on it. And yeah, there's a variety of courses, and I know that you have one coming up in Australia. I'm watching the chat here and making sure I answer everybody's questions at the same time. So, you know, there's a question about like best technique. I don't know if there is like a best technique. It depends on you and what's going on in your life. I've just found this to be really useful for a lot of people. Every once in a while, I'll blend it with other stuff, but it's like sometimes I'll be like, okay, so I need to discover like what's going on because they can't even pinpoint it, and I'll use this technique for that. And then what's the best thing to clear it? And it'll come up as Psych-K, and then we'll kind of blend. But I always try to keep Psych-K as, you know, itself in its own container because it is its own technique. But there are different things that work for different people, and that's why understanding what's out there is important. And then people were asking about, so okay, this could be an interesting little thought too. So someone said, I'm 59 and exhausted in bed most days. So we could talk about how we might approach like a little bit of a Psych-K with session with that is, you know, we can without actually having a person here. And then we will also be talking about the course that's running that she has coming up next, if that's something that you want to do, or she'll direct you to places that you can go to learn about others. But I liked that little question as like an example. So the person, you know, who's 59 and exhausted, what might be like the first question you would ask them in a session, which would allow you to then move into the process?
So often with Psych-K, we might just see if there's any stress or uncomfortable emotion around that. And often, you know, if you're exhausted, it can be a bit of despair because just the thought process of getting through or needing to be something for someone, or yeah, it can be exhausting. So we can start by transforming the perception of stress around it, because like I've heard people say, nothing is actually stressful, it's our perception of it. Now some people are like, no, that is definitely stressful, but another person looking at that situation might handle it differently or better, or because of their mind and their beliefs. And yeah, so we would transform your perception of stress and just take that to peace, for starters, peace, and we'll just separate the emotional attachment from it. Once people get clear from that, they can now see opportunities rather than being stuck in the fog of, or the weight of it. And then we'd say, how would you like it to be instead? And often people don't consider how it could be without limitations. People are often like, well, I could get around it this way or this way. But it's like, no, how would you like it to be? And then we get clear on that, and then we stick that in the subconscious mind. And all of a sudden, they have hope. They're looking for opportunities, and this works in a multiple of ways. One is the reticular activating system of our brain. When it knows what you want, it's just looking for it for you. So for example, if you want a red car, you will just see that red model and make everywhere. And that's a reticular activating system. So yeah, that's how I'd start. But like I said, with Psych-K, it's not an advice giving thing. It's all about our client, or we call them partner because we actually work with them. So it's all about where they're at, and you can't predict it at the start. The layers just keep coming up, and we just keep transforming the layers until, like you said about that boy, they're free and excited and hopeful and peaceful. So.
And I think what you just mentioned is one of the things that I love about it, right? It's not an advice giving thing, and it's not someone outside of you interpreting what needs to change. It is someone as a partner holding space. And in Psych-K, we talk about the concept of like the isumatek, which is a position of holding space where wisdom can be revealed. And like that is your job as the partner rather than putting your beliefs onto somebody. So it is like someone kindly and heartfelt holding space for you and asking you questions to help you discover what you're not even sure of yourself, but you're answering. And then it's based on what your answers are and what you want to be true for yourself. And that might have to happen in stages and layers. And there's this part of it where you make sure it's even appropriate to do what's called a balance for that, which is like the neurological things that are done in Psych-K to help balance out an emotion or a thought. And sometimes it comes up as no, and you have to do a different layer first, because otherwise you lose the wisdom in the process of going through the layers. And I think that's one of my favorite things about it, is that it really has nothing to do with the person facilitating it. It's all about and being guided by the person who is receiving and allowing them to discover the things that they need to discover.
Exactly. And the answers for us are all within us. And that shows up time and time again. It's a lasting process as well. It's not like a counseling session where you feel good then and there and then it goes. It's lasting. And I had a really great question from an attendee at the last course, and she's like, Skye, something like, it feels so good in the moment and sometimes it might wane. Why is that? And it's a great question, because if it wanes, you need to consider, is it actually something you want to do? Because I know that I've done balances that I think I should do, that I think is a good idea for my family. And I notice that won't stick because I didn't actually want that. So it's got to be what you actually want from your heart. Yeah. So that's a good one as
And
well. And
that's
that
where the
has
muscle testing is fun, is because it makes it, you can't lie to yourself. Like, it makes
exactly.
it so that you can only discover your own truth. Because, and for anyone who's not familiar with muscle testing, it's essentially treating the body like a circuit board. You're using a muscle to discover where a point of stress exists, whether that's physical or mental. And that point of stress will then all of a sudden make the muscle not function as well. And so that is how you can kind of use the body as a computer to have a conversation with the subconscious mind, which is not always accessible by that 5% conscious mind running. Well, I won't say running your day. I'll say interpreting your day, because the subconscious mind is running your day. And for someone, they said, how can I do muscle testing? So that's part of it is taught in these courses. You have to learn how to do it. It is a learned skill and takes practice. But why don't you jump into the course that's coming up in case people are curious?
Yeah, cool. So I'm actually co-hosting a Psych-K 3-day basic workshop. So there's a few courses. They're all 3 to 4 days long, but the basic is the foundational course. After a 3-day basic course, you have the tools and the processes to be able to perform Psych-K with yourself and with others. So it's truly transformational in just 3 days. I'm actually co-hosting one at the Gold Coast, November 11, 12 and 13. And I know that we have a worldwide attendees here on the live, but you know, Dr. Christine flew from Denver, Colorado to the Gold Coast in July to attend the workshop. Was that worth it for you, Christine?
Definitely, yes. And it was just fun to interact in a different environment. You know, I do trainees and stuff all the time here, and one thing about going to another country, at least for me, is it changes your perception. Like, people that live in a different country from you have a very different way of perceiving life. So I just like that. I challenge myself to do those things because I think it helps me grow as a person. There are courses in a lot of locations, so you can go to the main international Psych-K website and it will tell you about what's upcoming. But again, I like working with people that I resonate with, and I resonated with the way that Skye talks about things and teaches, so I decided to do that. But you can do whatever's right for you.
Yeah, completely agree. So I've got a workshop at the Gold Coast, November 11, 12 and 13, and you can just book for that via skyswift.com. You can also follow my Instagram to keep an eye on what I'm up to, and just little snippets of things that I learn as well, because I love, you know, like even Joe Vitale. I was listening to him the other day, and he's the guy who teaches all about Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian ritual, which is just 4 phrases. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And it's transformative. And yeah, it's just, I just love incorporating all of these things. I love sharing them throughout the pharmacy. I love helping people get closure, clarity. And the other thing is too, this is not just about health. This is about love, wealth, relationships, career, absolutely any change you want in your life, whether it's addiction, whether it's a habit, whether it's trauma. I have seen students facilitating other students to release childhood trauma on day 3 of the basic workshop. It is phenomenal. Like, if you're not there, you can't believe it. You can't, if you've got childhood trauma, we all do of different extents and severities, because a trauma, like Dr. Gabor Mate says, is just, well, not just, is the psychological scar pretty much from an event. It's not the event, it's what's left over from the event. And it can be transformed and released from the mind and the body. And yeah, like, it's truly blows my mind.
Well, and I'll share this piece because I just saw someone said, like, I've had trauma for 56 years. So trauma never leaves you, right? It's a part of you, it's a part of your life. And so what I have discovered through my own healing process and in working on healing with a lot of different people is, yeah, there's a component where you have to explore the trauma for sure. Like, you have to be willing to kind of not just ignore it. However, the healing lies in remembering everything that your trauma made you forget, which is how to be joyful and how to not think about your trauma and how to live not in anxiety and how to be excited about the future and how to be in touch with yourself. That's where the healing is. So if you're sitting there thinking about how you've had trauma forever, it's not really where your healing is totally going to happen. Yes, there are layers that you have to unpack, but that's the beauty of where Psych-K can help, is it is the practice of how do I want it to be? And then practicing those emotions and neurologically imprinting them into your body and your tissues. And that is where you get the chemical shift.
Yeah, I've even got a testimonial with a gentleman on my Instagram page, and he asked to do the testimony. He was like, Skye, can I share this with your audience? And he's like, I just revisited childhood trauma, and it was beautiful. Like, says no one ever, you know. And this is his testimonial about what he went through within the Psych-K process and balance, and that's beautiful. So yes, trauma hurts and trauma is hard, but Psych-K is a really gentle, nurturing process. Also, you don't even need to disclose the trauma. People don't need to tell me what happened. You can bring it to your mind, and we can get exactly the same result and outcome. It's all perfect. But the other thing, a beautiful thing about being in a sumatak, which is a holder of sacred space, like you mentioned, as a facilitator, I hold such sacred space that people end up telling me everything, because there is no judgment here whatsoever. You know, I essentially believe we're spirits on a journey, you know, there is no judgment. And when you can get some things off your chest and be heard and not judged, man, that's healing alone.
Well, and I just did something recently with someone where they couldn't tell me for legal reasons because it was like a legal thing that they were dealing with. And we were able to clear the stress out. And then 2 days later, they had a resolution show up for their legal thing, which I found fascinating.
How good's that? So it's not just health.
It's energetic.
I've had a business client who did an hour with me on family stuff, and he's like, oh, my session's up. And I said, would you like to stay for another hour? And we worked on his business. His business has exploded in the most beautiful way. And he's like, Skye, you know, I just wanted this, and I now have this. You know, he just cannot believe it. And you also touched on earlier that we can help people that aren't even in the room with us. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, energy is non-local. We are all connected through energy and consciousness. So Dr. Christine and I can actually tap into the consciousness of a person or a business or an entity, and we can actually do Psych-K through that modality for success, joy, love.
And for my fellow scientists, if you really want to look that up, it's called the quantum entanglement theory, and there's a physics principle behind it.
Yeah. And like, I've been a pharmacist for 20 years, and I'm so sick of the studies in some respect, because a lot of them are manipulated by, you know, bigger companies. So yeah, not everything. I don't know. I don't want to start a science war, because I love it all. I appreciate it all. But sometimes having things are skewed. And sometimes having too much knowledge can actually hold you back, because, yeah, this is maybe a fragile topic, but I would like to mention it. I had a girlfriend, infertility is a huge thing. And I had a girlfriend ring me up and tell me that she'd had a miscarriage. And I said, you know, I shared with her what I do. And she said, do you think I caused my miscarriage? And I said, never. I would never say that. And there is never any blame. And I said, but I do believe that thoughts contribute to reality. And I said, what were you thinking? And she said that she's like, I never believed that I could carry that baby to term. And then, so she said, look, I'm going to be on the Gold Coast in a month. Can we have a session? We did a session, and it was beautiful. And it's not just about fertility, it's about other thoughts in the mind. And within a year of our first conversation, she had a baby in her early 40s.
Wow.
So I'm not saying I made her baby. I'm not saying, but it's beautiful to know that there's hope. And it was her, she's a pharmacist as well. So it was her mind, her intelligent mind, her logical mind, knowing that as you get older, the chances of having a baby are less and less and less. So she knew all that, and that was contributing to her beliefs, which was contributing to her reality. As we allowed some dreaming and some possibility and some hope, her body performed differently. So
well, and I talk to other practitioners about this all the time. Like, how you speak to who you're working with is so important. And I can't believe how negative our healthcare system is in the way that we speak. And it's like, even if you've been given a diagnosis, like, your body is incredibly capable of healing. And no matter what the diagnosis is, I tell people that. And like, that changes their brain. And it's this awkward, I don't know, being a healthcare provider is a really tricky situation sometimes, because you have a lot of power in what you say, and you're also bound by a crazy amount of liability. And so it's like a really awkward place to be. And so, but even so, the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you talk to your body, the way that you talk to your cells, like, I used to, when I was dealing with a lot of injuries, I would say, oh, like my bad knee. I stopped saying that. I said, my knee that needs more love. Like, it's my knee that needs extra love and extra care. And we have a significantly better relationship now. And when it's having its grumpy days, I give it extra love and extra care, and then it's fine. So it's, yeah, the way that you talk to yourself matters, and it seriously changes your chemistry, because it changes the chemistry that your neurons are putting out, which changes the entire chemical milieu of everything.
Yeah. And cancer is a huge one. And I see the F cancer movement going around as though it's just a bad luck or an external thing, but it's an energetic dysfunction which is then manifesting in the body. So when there's energy and emotions, and then our body isn't functioning or detoxing or reproducing properly. You know, it's letting our body know, hey, you need to love yourself more, or find some different energy or environment or space. Like Bruce Lipton says, there is no gene for cancer. It's all about the energetic, the environment's perception of what's going on. Now, the other, yeah, so, and I can just imagine so many people disagreeing, but just lost my train of thought. And again, there's no blame, because this is subconscious, and subconscious means it's under people's awareness. So mentally we can go, no, I'm fine, I'm not stressed, I'm this and that. But subconsciously we have chips on our shoulders from our early childhood. And yes, often we can't see it ourselves, but it's stored in the body, it's stored in there. So,
and there's also interesting things around, and this might be like a vulnerable topic for some people, but this is what makes you a player in your own health. So when it comes to trauma and emotions and things like that, you can get addicted to your own sense of victimhood and fear. Really similar chemistry, and works on receptors in the brain almost like an opioid pathway. So you can literally get addicted to your own depression and your own anxiety and your own fear, because it's familiar, and it can feel really awkward feeling happy. And if you've been living in anxiety for a long time and you feel calm and relaxed, you feel like you're not covering all your bases, and then you get flung back into this old neurological circuit. But that's part of what Psych-K is for, is it's breaking those neurological circuits and helping you to get essentially addicted to the new ones that feel good. And when you start feeling that way and you start shifting your chemistry, it starts shifting your energy, and then going into the physics principles of manifestation theory. When you shift your energy, you start noticing different things in your environment, you start noticing different opportunities, and you start shifting your own energetic reality. And that is more the concept behind manifesting. It really starts with your own feelings and your own thoughts. So if you are living in a feeling like, I'm going to ruin everything, it's not going to bring you what you want. And so it's a way of practicing. It's really hard to do by yourself when you're stuck in a weird spot. So that's what practitioners and partners and facilitators are for. That's why we want you to know this exists and you can work with someone on this stuff. But that's what it's for, is helping you to shift into a new way of being and a new way of exuding your own energetic field.
And you will prove whatever you believe as well. So if you have different beliefs to Dr. Christine and I, you will completely disagree with us, and you will prove yourself right. But you need to consider, is that where you want to be proving right? Do you want to be proving that you can't heal? Do you want to be proving anything negative? Whereas time and time again, when we see belief change, that's what we do. So Psych-K is belief change, which has the myriad of cascading positive effects. And when that changes, everything else changes for a person. So yes, you can disagree with us and be stuck in those beliefs, and that's fine, and you will prove yourself right. So I now go, where do I want to prove myself right? And it's, for me, it's all in loving and empowering ways.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, I could like talk to you forever. Let's see, any other major topics that we want to address? And I'm like keeping an eye on the chat and the questions. And if I miss anything, like forgive me, I am a human and there's a lot of stimulation on my screen, but please re-ask your question and we're happy to answer it. But yeah, any last kind of topics that you want to dive into around this, just so people know what's available to them?
Well, someone actually just said, so I don't need church and Jesus to break the cycle. And that's an interesting one because, again, I don't have any opinions on anyone's beliefs or religions, or I'm all about go where you feel drawn and what resonates with you. And as you believe, you also have new lessons as well. And my beliefs change. And I think it's important that beliefs change, because once you have a stuck belief, you also have a limiting factor there as well. So I have beliefs that resonate in my heart, but they also evolve. And I'm from a highly Christian family. So no, I don't need Jesus to break the cycle. But it doesn't mean I don't believe that Jesus exists. But I don't believe that God is outside of me anymore. I always thought he was. I grew up for 38 years thinking God was outside of me. And I now know that we're extensions of it. You know, we're all part of this one beautiful, greater consciousness, being, source, whatever you know. So the power is not outside of us, it is within us, and not in a, I think my dad's coming out, not in a like egotistical way. It's in a, we're all connected way, and we're all very powerful, and it's not outside of us, but it's within all of us. And I think that's beautiful to know that we are connected and we're not alone.
I think that's a very beautiful way to say it. And yeah, I'm all about empowering people from the inside rather than relying on something outside of you to fix things. Like, you are your greatest savior, and I'll leave it at that. So yeah, any other last comments? I know you said you may have to.
Oh. Are you there?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I had a call coming in. I guess it.
That's okay.
Limited my speech. So I was saying, I like to empower people and remind them that the greatest power you have is within you. And rather than handing away your power to something else, reminding you that you are your greatest savior. And I'll leave it at that. So if people wanted to learn more about this or wanted to learn about the course, where would you direct them?
So obviously my Instagram's just an easy place to connect with me, and SkyeSwift.com has some cool things about what is Psych-K, a really cool little simple animated video talking about the subconscious mind, really simply, which is nice. There is a Psych-K international website, but also I direct them to you, Dr. Christine. I mean, are you doing online Psych-K as well?
Yep, absolutely. I became a master facilitator while I was there. And so I am doing online courses. So if anyone's interested, just go to the link in my bio, go to my webpage and go under services, and you'll see it listed as a service. You can read more about it. You can watch a bunch of free videos about it. And then if you decided something that you want to try, you can just book right at the top of the page. So, but yeah, we just wanted people to know that this exists, and you can always look for people around you if you like. As I said, work with who you resonate with, but I'd be more than happy to facilitate with or be a partner for anyone who wants to explore. Psych-K is spelled Psychk, just like on the title of this video. It will also be I'll post a recording to my feed. And if you guys have any other questions, like please comment below and comment after the video and let us know what you want to learn. We can always do another one of these. We had even invited our instructor to do one of these with us, so we could potentially set up one where we're doing 3 people answering your questions. So let us know what you want.
That's cool.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I know it's really early there, and sending you so much love, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Love you all. See ya.